I have counted the days by the cycling of the distress beacon, not by light, because there has been no light here in years that did not come from our own failing cells. The Calyx vault died slowly. She was a transport, not a warship, caught in the spillover of a war that was never ours, holed through her upper decks in the first hour, and through her spine in the second. What was left of her settled into the wreck field at the edge of the hollow reach and stayed there, and what was left of us settled into her flooded ballast decks, because that was where the water still held, and we are gillfolk, and water is the only mercy a dying ship has left to give. There were 11 of us. There are still 11 of us. That alone should tell you something about how careful we became. Twice in those years, we thought it had ended. Once, early on, a survey drone of some kind passed close enough on its own business that our beacon should have crossed its receivers. We felt the faint pulse of its scan sweep the hull, held our breath as one body, and then felt it pass, uninterested, on to wherever it was actually going. Old Mareth did not speak for 2 full cycles after that. The second time was worse. A relay ghost, some echo of our own signal bounced back off debris and returned to us distorted, so that for 1 terrible hour, we believed someone had answered, before I traced the waveform and understood it was only ourselves, talking to ourselves, across the wreckage of our own ship. After that I stopped letting anyone but myself listen to the raw feed. It seemed kinder to filter the hope before it reached them. I am a systems tender. My work, before, was unglamorous. Filtration, ballast trim, the small unseen labor that keeps a transport's lower decks livable. After, my work became the beacon. I rebuilt it twice from salvage, rewired it a third time with wire pulled from a dead console, and set it to cycle on the old civilian distress band, because that was the only frequency I still had the parts to drive. Every 19 hours it spoke into the dark, the same flat string of coordinates and hull designation, and every 19 hours it stopped, and nothing answered. We did not despair loudly. The water does not allow loud despair. Sound travels strangely through a flooded hull, and grief carries further than you would like. So we were quiet about it. Old Mareth stopped predicting how long the recyclers would last. Toba stopped asking me, each cycle, whether I had checked the relay. I kept checking it anyway, alone, because somebody had to keep believing the wire was good, even after everyone else had stopped asking. The ship that found us was not looking for us. I learned this after, from her own crew, and it did not diminish the thing. If anything, it made it larger. She was a salvage tender, small, independent, working the hollow reach for scrap hull plate and recoverable alloy, the kind of unglamorous human contract work that never gets logged as heroism. Her sensors caught our beacon the way a hand catches a splinter, not searching for it, just brushing close enough that it could not be missed. The signal was old. It was flagged, in whatever registry such things are flagged in, as low priority, and probably dead. Most ships working that field would have logged it and moved on, because the wreck field was full of old signals, and most of them were already graves. She did not move on. I felt it before I understood it. A new vibration through the hull, low and even, nothing like the grinding settle sounds the Calyx vault made on her own. Mareth heard it too, and went still in the water beside me, her fins flat against her sides the way they go when she is listening with everything she has. The vibration did not waver, and did not retreat. It came closer, patient, the way something moves when it already knows where it is going. The human ship was called the Anchor Deep. I did not know that yet. What I knew was that something had finally answered the beacon, after years, after the relay had been rebuilt and rewired, and trusted on faith alone, and that the not knowing was almost worse than the silence had been, because now there was something to lose. They did not blast through to us. I want that understood, because I have heard how some rescues go, how some species treat a derelict like a thing to be cracked open. The humans cut a single clean access through the dry upper hull, sealed it behind them as they came, and worked their way down through 3 decks of wreckage with portable lights, and a patience that did not match the urgency I felt in my own chest. When the first human reached the flooded compartment where we waited, she did not flinch at the water, or at us, or at the 11-fold pair of eyes that broke the surface to look at her. She crouched at the edge of the flood line, said something low into a comm unit at her collar, and then looked at Mareth. Mareth was nearest, and oldest, and her composure had finally begun to crack. and said, simply, that they would have everyone breathing dry air within the hour, and that there was no need to rush, because the ship wasn't going anywhere without us. I do not know why that was the line that undid me. Not "you're safe," not "we came as fast as we could," just the flat, unhurried fact of it. The ship wasn't going anywhere without us. Said the way you would say it about a piece of routine cargo, except we were not cargo, and she said it like we mattered exactly that ordinarily. The extraction took most of the hour she promised. They rigged a pressure-graded transfer line through the access cut, sealed and warmed, so that we moved from the flooded dark of the calyx vault into close, breathable transit without ever losing the water against our skin until the very last stretch, when their own ship's transfer bay was waiting, with a shallow recovery pool, already filled and warmed, to something close to what our bodies remembered. Small mercies, deliberately arranged. Nobody had told them how to care for gill folk. They had simply taken the time, in the hour before extraction, to ask the right questions, and act on the answers, without making a performance of it. There was a second human in the flooded compartment with us by then, a thick-set man with grease still under his nails, from whatever salvage work the morning had originally been for, and he moved among the youngest of us, Toba's 2 daughters, who had been hatched in this wreck and knew no other water than the calyx vaults, checking the seals on the transfer harnesses with the unhurried thoroughness of a man checking his own ship's rigging before a storm. He did not speak much. When he did, it was practical. Hold here. Breathe through this. Almost there. No wonder in his voice. No horror at the 11 years of silence behind us. Only the steady competence of someone doing a job he had clearly done, in one form or another, many times before, for people who were not us, and would never know our names. I went last, because someone always has to go last, and because I wanted to see the calyx vault's flooded heart empty out behind me before I let it go. The transfer line ran warm and close around me, and at its end, I broke the surface of the recovery pool into white, even light, the kind no failing cell of ours had produced in years. Water ran warm down a stranger's deck for the first time in years, and I looked up through an actual viewport at actual daylight. Pale, distant, filtered through the haze of the hollow reach, but daylight, and not the dead glow of our own failing cells. A human stood near the ramp at the edge of the bay, not looking at us with triumph or relief or anything that asked to be thanked. He was checking a manifest. He glanced up once, saw that we were breathing easily, and went back to his work, because to him, this was simply the next item on a list, the way our own deaths had simply been the next item on a list nobody else was keeping. That is the image I have held on to since. Not the breach, not the lights, not even the warm water. The ramp, lowered into ordinary daylight, and a man with a manifest who treated our survival as unremarkable, because to him it was not a miracle. It was Tuesday's work. He had found a beacon nobody else had bothered to reopen, and he had answered it the way you answer any call, because it was there, and because somebody was listening on the other end. We were 11. We are still 11. The calyx vault is a wreck field statistic now, logged and closed. But I keep the memory of that ramp the way I once kept the relay. Checked, rebuilt, trusted on faith, because some things deserve to be carried, even after the silence that made them necessary is finally over.